It's time for the Onyx News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the Onyx News Podcast, Margie K.
Good evening and welcome to Onyx News. I'm your host, Margie K. And this evening I have a guest you probably know about. Stephen Bassett has spoken to audiences in 20 countries about the political implications of UAP ET phenomena and disclosure, the formal confirmation by heads of state of an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. He is co-founder of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance and executive director of Paradigm Research Group, Inc., a 501c3 nonprofit seeking an end to a government-imposed truth embargo. His advocacy work has been well covered by national and international media, including CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, Washington Post, and the New York Times, as well as represented in numerous documentary films. His lectures and interviews are well represented on YouTube. In 2013, PRG organized and conducted a citizen hearing on disclosure at the National Press Club in Washington. In November of 2014, PRG launched a 2-year political initiative out of Washington, D.C. that injected the ET issue into the 2016 presidential campaign. Welcome to the program, Stephen.
As always, nice to be with you, Margie.
Oh, it's good to have you back again. And just like to get an update on the latest. What has been going on lately?
In Washington, D.C., not that much. Kind of just the same old, just relaxed, chill, southern area of the country, getting a little chilly. But everybody's fine. There's no upheavals, no problems, no issues.
Oh, that's so good to know.
Yeah, the parties are getting along. We're all feeling the Christmas spirit, the Thanksgiving spirit. It's fantastic.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
you know, that's contrary to what the media says, but please do continue.
As it turns out, that is contrary to what the media is saying. It's wild and crazy here. It's interesting times. It's dramatic. It's like living in a 5-season, 10-episode a season streaming series. Right? Yeah. You got to stay to the end because you got to know how it ends up. The only thing that will prevent that is dying. And so, it's been interesting. So, without getting into the politics, I think most people are following that. It's going to take us to some interesting places very soon. We're going to see some things we've probably never seen before. Not that there hasn't been a lot of that in the last 7 or 8 years. It's going to be consuming of the media. The internet's going to obviously be paying very close attention. But in spite of that drama, the disclosure process leading to the confirmation, finally, from a head of state, preferably the president of this country, is continuing to move forward. It's now unstoppable. I don't know when exactly achieved that. Not in late 17, but with the New York Times articles. But after about 2 years, it had gone to a point where it couldn't be stopped. So now it's a question of when does it cross the finish line? When do we get the key reason for this movement, which is, of course, disclosure, capital D, confirmation, head of state, all that. And that's what I'm interested in. And there's much to say there. But first and foremost, the number one thing is a documentary called This Age of Disclosure. As an activist, I am viewing it obviously in a different way from people that are just viewing it as how entertaining will it be? Will it be must viewing? Should I buy it? Whatever. I get that. People that really like Tiger King and some of these other really interesting docs. maybe they have a problem. I don't know. But from the activist point of view, it is pure gold. All right. So, in short order, it's the first documentary that really emerges from what I would call the belly of the beast, Hollywood, the people and the resources and the technical expertise that one associates with all Hollywood films, or high-end professional films, in this case, Hollywood. There have been hundreds of documentaries made, all by people like you and me and our colleagues. Not too much money. Equipment, not bad. It's gotten a lot cheaper over the years. Editing software is available to all. So anyone can make a doc these days. And we did hundreds of them, some better or worse. And they have played a major role in advancing this issue by putting the information that is essentially confirmatory into video, which is where we get all our information now, as opposed to having to go read a book.
Exactly.
So it's been very helpful. But never in the history of this issue has major film, professional film, Hollywood, put together a doc that would go on the screen, the big screens, be eligible for Oscar nomination. Certainly anything that they would promote to 1,000 screens. Reason for that is that while plenty of people in this town are well aware, in Hollywood are well aware that the phenomenon is real, non-human, huge deal, they don't want to upset the government by treading on its toes. I get that. So they've made hundreds of films with ETs in them that have made billions and billions and billions of dollars. Don't blame them for that. And help to educate the whole world about the idea of extraterrestrial. There's probably anybody in the world that hasn't seen a couple of sci-fi movies with ETs in them. Maybe 90+% of the entire world's population have seen it at one point or another. And in the more advanced countries, technological countries, got millions, if not billions of views. So Hollywood got us totally up to speed on the idea of ETs. But with respect to the idea of ETs here and now, didn't want to go there. And why would you want to upset the government when you're raking in money like that? I don't blame them. So we've worked for years to try to make that happen. And it finally happened. Courtesy of Dan Farah, who has worked on A-list projects in Hollywood. He is a pro, got funds, access to the high tech and all of that. And he created a doc, which in no way denigrates the docs made by our friends and colleagues. They were extremely important. And it may be that they'll have a second life down the line where suddenly they're turning up on the big screens because they're already made, don't need a lot of advertising, probably make some good money. But Dan Farah put together a doc, which he ultimately called The Age of Disclosure. It started off with a pretty standard process. Went into a very large film festival, South by Southwest, which is the second largest, I think, in the country. And it appeared there to develop the marketing process. It wasn't submitted into a whole bunch of festivals to play that because probably it just wasn't appropriate in this case. Who knows? It cost a lot of money to do that. But it appeared in that. And it took about a year before if the final decision was made, or how are we going to launch this? What is appropriate? And what he came up with is a perfect balance between its activist power and commercial appropriateness. And so what is about to happen on Friday, 2 days from now, is The Age of Disclosure will premiere on 3 screens and run for, I don't know, however long they want to run it. I think all 3 are part of the Angelica KA theater group, one in Los Angeles, one in New York, one in Washington, D.C. I'll be attending the Washington, D.C. event. So that is their screen premiere. As it happens, whatever the criteria are, that is sufficient for this documentary to be nominated for an Oscar. I believe it will. Well, I know it will be the first documentary about the issue and the truth embargo and everything that will have that opportunity. I think it will be nominated. That will be a major milestone, which means it will be announced at the Oscars in front of, I don't know, how many hundreds of million people watch that? as a nominee. Nominees are ching, 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 ching. All right. They're obviously the Oscar nominations are getting a lot more attention. They've gotten better, very popular. They can do very well, but our genre has not been included. Possibly that will happen next year. So there's that. Then on Friday as well, it will go on sale and rental on Amazon Prime worldwide. You can actually go on Amazon Prime now and pre-purchase it, fine. And of course, it's going to have a run there where it will make the money necessary to pay back and possibly make a profit for the backers of this film. Fantastic. How well it does may determine whether, when in such time it goes on full streaming live for subscribers, or maybe it gets another film run on some big screen. Who knows? Anything is possible when you're dealing with this issue at this time. And so that is the age of disclosure. Now, why is it so important? One basic reason. All right, there have been many docs. Some of them all had aspects and positive aspects of it, have brought forward a whole plethora of aspects of the issue and disclosure and the truth embargo. All good. Mm-hmm. What did this doc do that none of the other were able to do? And it was able to do it because it had the professional film people behind it with the appropriate funding to be able to take care of what was needed. And so what he did was assemble the largest group of individuals of substantial rank, station, career accomplishments, whatever, ever assembled in a single doc on this issue to speak to it in interviews, one after another. It's kind of like an almost, it's like a sledgehammer. Each person says something. It's like, boom, then another one, boom. It goes on for an hour and 20 minutes. And you say, okay. So who are these people? All right, who are we talking about here? Well, let me just give you a sense. This is who has been assembled. I won't go in too long on this, but let me give it to you. Here are the people that have been assembled for this doc, which I need to back up to get. Here it is. All right, hang on. Let's see. Here we go. And here we go. No, that's not it. Just a sec. Sorry. I'm going to go here, notifications, and I'm going to come down to, okay, here we go. Okay. First of all, 7 sitting members of Congress, 3 senators, and 4 congressional members, and 1 former, recently retired member of Congress. That's 8. 8.
That's a lot.
In the same doc. Nothing has even got in the remote ballpark of that.
Right.
And they're not trivial people. Certainly, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, former Senator Marco Rubio, would be considered pretty high end. Kirsten Gillibrand, she ran for president, as did Marco Rubio. Mike Rounds, very respected Senate member, and the co-author of the UAP Disclosure Act. Note the word disclosure. And then we've got Congressman Anna Paulina Luna, who is the chairman of the task force to declassify government federal secrets, and also chair of the some of the hearings that have happened, member of the oversight subcommittee and so forth, getting a lot of press. Andre Carson, Congressman Tim Burchett, who came out, I think, before any other member of Congress on a number of television programs, news programs, stating flat out, we have a presence here. Technologically advanced, non-human, extraterrestrial, whatever you want to call them. He did it repeatedly with 0 political consequences. Congressman Dan Crenshaw and former member of Congress, Mike Gallagher, and I should mention it's about halfway split between Republicans and Democrats. And I should also mention that none of these members of Congress that I am aware of has received any political blowback or damage to their election potential at all on this
That's
issue.
amazing.
Yeah. And that is not the case with respect to many other issues they address. And then we have the military. What do we got here? Well, we got a general, Jim Clapper. We've got a commander, David Fravor, Navy. We've got an admiral, Tim Gallaudet. We have Air Force Captain Robert Salas. We have Army Colonel Carl Nell. I mean, these are retired. We have Lieutenant Commander Alex Dietrich, another fire, retired, I believe. Ryan Graves. Louis Elizondo, of course, was in the Army and Intel, I believe. And Jeffrey Nuttaselli. That's a lot of military. All right. And then we've got political. Certainly Christopher Mellon. Well, political and civilian agency stuff. Mike Gold, Jim Semivan of CIA, Christopher Mellon, obviously, very substantial background in the political arena, both on the DoD side as well as the House side. And then you've got academics. Gary Nolan, PhD. Eric Davis, PhD. Travis Taylor, PhD. Hal Puthoff, PhD. That is the people that are that are giving their statements, none of which, I assure you, are debunking this issue on camera, on a film that's going to get possibly an Oscar nomination and a lot of worldwide attention. Anybody that thinks they're doing it in order to get more likes on their X channel, well, what can I say? So that is why this is so important and why it's a breakthrough for Dan Farah. Now, here is how that importance is going to play out as this thing comes down, in spite of everything else that's going on. Because the fact is, the other things that are happening in the political realm are so awful, so upsetting, so uncomfortable for all, right? That this will be a place that they can go whenever given the opportunity to talk in a way that's not going to immediately get them death threats or bad reviews. And so they'll probably take advantage of that. So what is it going to do? Number one, for every member of Congress who has stepped out and spoken directly to this issue, such as Burchett, Mace, Luna, Carson, Gillibrand, Rubio, for every one of them, there's probably 10, maybe more, members of Congress that have already reached the understanding that it's clearly real and clearly an issue, and are actually learning about it, doing a little private study, but is simply not ready to come out and do that for the obvious reasons. They're not sure of the implications. They want to play it safe. It's being engaged, good enough. This issue is going to make it more likely for some of them to say, I want in. I want on the task force. Mm-hmm. Let's get a hearing in our committee and so forth. So that's number one. Number two, the witnesses. Many witnesses have come forward. Some have had a better time than others. It's certainly nothing like it used to be. They have testified under oath. They have gotten pretty good press, but the government truth embargo continues, and inside harassment could certainly happen out of, quote, the truth embargo itself. And of course, the internet, X, social media, that's several billion opinions. They're going to have their say. And so there's been plenty of blowback on these witnesses. But worst of all, there's been death threats. Grush certainly had some, and I think may still be getting some. And so, and the whistleblower protection laws are still not quite there. There's been some additions within the legislation and some proposals. So many of them, because things have dragged out, are not ready to go in front of a committee. And so they're having a little trouble getting the lineup of witnesses they would like. I understand that completely. They could subpoena them. Believe me, there are dozens and dozens they could subpoena, but they don't want to do that. If you subpoena these types of individuals and force them to come in under oath and talk about this subject, you are not making friends with them or any other witnesses. And so you don't want to do that. This film is going to make it easier for some of these witnesses to make up their mind. They're going to watch these people speaking, into the world record, right? Forever. And they're going to say, maybe I can come forward. But it's going to have impact on the media. The media has been doing more and more coverage. I'm chronicling all that on my website under the Print Media Archive at paradigmresearchgroup.org. I've logged in more articles in the last 7 years than in any previous 7 years. I think I'm approaching 9,000 mainstream articles. And I assure you, the Age of Disclosure is getting plenty of coverage. Everything's getting plenty of coverage. But it's not enough. We need more. We need to take it to other levels. And so this is going to make it easier for the very high-end media to start getting even more serious about this issue. So it's having that impact. But it's also going to have impact on the film industry. As they see it play out, as they see the effects it's having, you may have more Dan Farrahs turning up and more documentaries. It should be mentioned that prior, about a year and a half before this doc finally gets to this point, maybe 2 years before, we had a breakthrough in that really for the first time, A-list Hollywood stepped into the documentary aspect of this. When you had a series called UFO by J.J. Abrams, who was A-list to the max, followed not too long by another documentary series on this subject by Steven Spielberg. Documentary series for streaming, not a film to go on the screen and possibly be nominated for an Oscar. And so this is going to make it easier for more of them. And at some point, the light is going to go off in their head that, guess what? The whole world is interested in the fictional UAPs and very much interested in the actual UAPs, the actual, I guess you could say, non-humans. Very much interested. And so a documentary high end of this going on 1,000 screens couldn't make money, assuming you don't care what the government thinks about your doing that. Oh, of course it could make money. You can make an incredible doc for $8 million. And lastly, let me point out that a documentary that might have, well, let me put it this way, that might have very well won the best documentary of the year, Oscar, was Fahrenheit 9/11, 2004. It won 29 awards out of 46 nominations, including the Palme d'Or in Cannes. But Michael Moore did not submit it for a documentary nomination. He thought he had a shot at Best Picture. Who can blame him? So he submitted it for that, got no nomination. And why do I bring up that doc? I think it cost $7 million. That was a political documentary on a controversial subject. In current dollars, it's made something like $30 million on a $7 million budget. And so the message to Hollywood is like, the truth embargo is almost over. Would you like to make lots and lots of money? Make some high quality, top of the line production, and make sure you talk to the people in our issue, that like Richard Dolan and so many others that have been working on it for decades. They have all the knowledge in their head, even though they're not on your agent's list. Get with them, draw on their resources, bring them in and pay them well. This is what this documentary is going to help do. I'm pretty excited about that.
And I think people are more and more interested in hearing from actual experiencers, people who have witnessed things personally or had injuries or had interaction personally. There is a great interest in that now, much more so than there was before. And if these documentaries will include these personal encounters by real people, I think that is probably one of the biggest keys. Of course, having all of these people who are very credible, and the Congress people, of course, the well-known researchers, you do have to have those. But in this film, were there actual witnesses and experiencers who were interviewed?
No. There's a couple of experiencers that are in the film, Jim Semivan, but I'm pretty sure he's not talking about that. But this film is making the way to get there. Look, there have been movies about contact. There's been a documentary about contact, and in this case, it was Travis Walton. There was a documentary about contact of a sort with the aerial phenomena, the aerial school case. And that documentary, frankly, well, it should have been. It deserved a big screen. That was an amazing documentary. but they're coming, right? Because
Mhm.
a really high quality doc. I'm not saying that the ones that our community have made are not quality. I'm simply saying they don't have the funds to do so much that you would like to do, or access to the highest quality post and pre-production talent that Hollywood
Mhm.
has. But the contact thing is visceral, it's personal. And so as that is legitimized and put up on that big screen, again, we need to be on the big screen because that is what gives it gravitas.
Mhm.
Those docs are going to do well if they're done extremely well. This is very, very, I'm just saying that this is the kind of stuff that people can really identify with, as opposed to some black budget program buried under a military base somewhere. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, they're going to make money. And hopefully the Hollywood will figure that out, and I will certainly promote it and look forward to seeing some of my contactee friends possibly up on the big screen.
We are up on a break, and we'll be back right after these messages with Stephen Bassett.
Behind every ghost story and creature feature lies a far more terrifying truth. The real monsters wear human faces. In the chilling book, All Monsters Are Human, from Derek Smith, 10 Twisted Tales expose the darkest parts of the human soul. From killers hiding in plain sight to obsessions turned deadly. Each story invites you to step into a shadow world where morality unravels, and the only thing more terrifying than what lurks in the dark is who. These aren't just horror stories. They're reflections of ourselves, showing what happens when fear, rage, guilt, and desire take control. Visit nxmedia.com for more information on All Monsters Are Human from Derek Smith. And you can purchase them at Amazon.com from nxmedia.com.
And we're back with Onyx News. I'm your host, Margie Kay, and we're speaking with Stephen Bassett this evening. Stephen, this movie sounds like it is a next level. And like you said, it's probably going to be the impetus for some things to follow, which will be really good for disclosure. Because, like you said earlier, we have been exposed to so many films and cartoons and shows about ETs for many, many years. People they're used to it. They're acclimated to the idea. If you ask somebody on the street, are there extraterrestrials? Sure, there are. Most people will say that. However, getting up close and personal with an extraterrestrial is a whole different story. And I think that what this film is going to do is, like you said, be the impetus for some more following films that are done by Hollywood with a larger budget than most of us have. I'm working on a film right now. I don't have $7 million, but we're doing the best we can. We have some decent cameras and we're doing the best. So it's going to be good, but it's not going to be Hollywood production. So do you think more films?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Do you think more films like this will follow soon, or do you have any knowledge of that?
I don't know what's in the works, but I assure you, the big shots in Hollywood, the top of the industry, are watching carefully how it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
We know the Spielberg's got a movie coming out next year that's pretty big, but I think it's fiction. But I'd be quite shocked if it doesn't play into the disclosure issues. But who knows? He'll make what he wants. We've always done the best we can with what we have, and that is noble. Fortunately for the activist movement, all activist movements, the technology to pursue activism and in a broad way, at a larger audience, has gotten profoundly cheaper and quality. So the internet, the cameras, the cell phones with cameras, ultimately, certainly the podcast situation, following, of course, radio on the net, and then podcasting, that cheaper cameras, yet quality mics, all of that has given activism a substantial level of technological ability it actually couldn't dream of having 50 years ago. And so, and we've taken advantage of that. But still, right, that technology enhancement has also occurred to the professionals. And so you may have access to these things, but do you have, millions of dollars to do all the other things that take it to that necessary level? With very few exceptions, just not there. All right. That's about to change. All right. And so here is for those of you that, what is it? That what is it? The word you project intention, right? It's like you manifest.
Yeah. Manifest.
What you want. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to do some manifesting. Here's what I'm looking to want to see in next year. I forget what month it is. It's not too long into the year. It's the Oscar night, and the nominations are brought up for Best Documentary. Now, my understanding is there's a couple of docs out there that are very well done. I mean, very, very good. The topics elude me right now, but whatever. I've heard the buzz. And so stiff competition. However, docs are rated not just on their style, but also on their impact. Impact matters. And so the impact of a doc may be enough to put it over the top. I happen to think the impact of this doc, certainly in the next 6 months, will be well understood. And if it is recognized as making a huge difference, that may be enough. And so I'm manifesting that they do the nominations and they call out the winner, and it's The Age of Disclosure. And Dan Farr and all the producers, I think about 6 or 7, they're all walking down the aisle and walking up there. Pretty sure Dan will be the center guy who's going to probably accept on behalf of the entire team. Boy, that would be something after 30 years in this field, aware of the 80 years that this has been underway since 47, to see that finally happen. It's the perfect culmination of the disclosure movement from our side. But the ultimate combination has to be confirmation from the president. Now, I can go into that if you want, but let me just say this.
Yeah.
I can make a very good case, but not in the time we have left, of why this issue is now in the White House, making the rounds, bouncing off the walls, whatever the hell, and that the necessary structure and policy, hearings, legislation, and other stuff, enough has been put together for the president to simply make his move without really being disruptive. It would be appropriate. We could use a little more, but there's enough in place. I mean, a huge amount has been accomplished just the last 3-4 years. And
he said a few things. He's been a little evasive about it, but he also he has never said, no, that's not true.
Now, well, his son has said a lot. His son brought Louis Elizondo and Coulthard onto his vetted, Triggered podcast. Gabbard has talked to it. Vance has talked to it. Luna has spoken to it. All on she spoke to it on Rogan's podcast. How many
I saw that.
And so it's kicking around. And what I'm trying to say is, putting everything else aside, there is no serious obstacle politically. Now, there may be a serious obstacle with respect to the Department of Defense, but at this point, the president is still the commander-in-chief, last I checked. The president could step out tomorrow or next month or January and do it. Why? Who knows? It would be one of the greatest achievements of any head of state. It would probably get a Nobel Prize, et cetera, et cetera. It would be an unbelievable legacy, whatever else the history is. So that could be a good motivation. So the possibility that not only would they win the Oscar, but disclosure may have already happened, in which case it probably will win the Oscar. And that's going to be a night. I mean, I just might do terrible things or commit felonies in order to get myself into Los Angeles and into that, whatever the hell they hold that thing. Maybe, I don't know, pose as a usher or something and be there when it happened. But let me tell you, I'm trying to manifest it, but this is not unrealistic. And you know that if that happened, every single person that we know, every single contactee that's out there, not just the ones we know, will be watching that night. Hell, we could easily make up 1 million or 2 of the audience right there with enormous expectation.
For sure.
This is what I'm manifesting. I invite people to join me if into the manifest sphere.
Okay. I will encourage people to do that. It'd be interesting to see after this film comes out, how many people do come forward who have kept silent for years.
Right.
It may trigger that.
It's also triggering something else. It's getting attacked. There's plenty of attack.
Oh, sure.
This is like filet mignon in front of a pack of dogs. So they're coming after it. Obviously the skeptics, I think, are coming after it because I think they respect the fact that it's a significant threat to their whole raison d'etre in this life, which is undermining this issue. And so they're hitting it as quickly as they can. All the usual stuff. Same old, same old. It's got to be a hoax. It's part of a Project Bluebeam. They're even calling the people fools, things like that. I get it. They're pushing hard.
If you just look at Wikipedia, you see all of the negative comments.
Well, that's a standard thing. There is a problem with the Wikipedia editors in the sense that they're allowing certain editors with a strong bias on this issue. And there are editors with bias on lots of issues. But I'm not recalling, an issue, I don't know, pick something, the Civil War, where somebody really feels the South should have won, and they're like, they're skewing the Civil War listings kind of toward the South. This is the only one I'm aware of, and Wikipedia is a great resource. I use it constantly, and I kind of wish that they would get that under control. But let's just say that disclosure could float that boat. We'll see. And so, what was I talking about? I lost it there. What was I?
No, Wikipedia and the people who are.
Oh yeah. It's getting attacked, and then also the DOD and the managers of the truth embargo are pushing back, and so they could easily be attacking it with bots and so forth and social media, or encouraging others. And you might, and one reason I say that is because recently they did do what I consider a pretty a serious level, robust attack on the issue out of panic, frankly, when they invited the Wall Street Journal, that's top of the top, to send a couple of national security people over. We like to talk to them, maybe give them some information for a story. Hey, you're not going to turn that down. And so they sent 2 of their senior, or I don't know if senior, but they're national security reporters. I spent an hour with one of them, was a little bit not sure. And then a couple months went by and the stories broke. In fact, I'm the one that gave him the contact information to Robert Salas. And when those 2 New York Times stories broke in June, not New York Times, Wall Street Journal, it was immediately obvious that the DOD had fed them a complete load of BS in an effort to try to push back against the relentless disclosure process. And there were 2 articles. One focused on one of the focuses was on the overall issue, which they tried to ascribe to just endless misinterpretation of stuff that they were doing in the secret or misinterpreting, right? Putting that meme out again. But then the real point of this article was to go after Bob Salas and the nuclear shutdown evidence. This is the most threatening part of the evidentiary matrix to the DOD. They have been deadly afraid that this was eventually going to break into the Congress on testimony. And it's very close, and they know it. And I'm very much involved with that. And so they do not want Bob Salas or Jameson or Schindele or Jacobs or any of the non-com security guys testing under oath to Congress on the shutdowns. The evidence is there. Hastings' book alone pretty much locked it down. Knapp just brought it up in a hearing, the first time it's ever been brought up in a hearing not too long ago. When was it? May? No, it wasn't May. It was October, September, whatever. The point is that this is the one area of evidence they do not want under oath. And that is the nuclear shutdowns, because there are some inside the government that are still terrified that people will be turned off by the fact that that is an admission of helplessness. Well, it is, because they're nobody's shocked by that. And so these articles are pretty awful. Bob Salas wrote a very nice counter response, given he was attacked in the article and basically made a liar of, sent it to the Wall Street Journal, and the Wall Street Journal didn't publish it. So this is something they'll have to answer for. So this movie, this doc is going to get attacked. That's fine, but it's going to get nothing but support from me, and because I understand its activist power, and that's what matters right now. The power of its activism to end the truth embargo. Anything that helps end the truth embargo is A+ with me.
Absolutely. And here is the graphic for the movie, for the film. It kind of reminds me of a 1950s situation. Perhaps UFOs over the Capitol, over the White House. Is that... I think that's a little nod to that, maybe.
Of course, the flyby over the Capitol in '52, which I think was related to the nukes without question, and message to them, because we had the Roswell crash in '47. 5 years later, we're still playing footsie with the issue. We're not really going to address it. It's clear we're starting to push back, and then all of a sudden they fly over the Capitol for 11 days. Why? Just happen to be in the area? Why didn't they fly over the capital of Tennessee or something? And so that's what triggered the Robertson panel, which concluded we got to shut this all down, because they are, and actually the Robertson panel said they don't seem to be a threat, but the public's interest could be very threatening. And I'm going, really? Anyway, so that's 52. Okay. And ultimately this is it basically ending up where it started then. And that's the Capitol, with the hearings and everything else. Right. And then, of course, the White House stepping up and ending it. There is a reason for all this. By the way, keeping in mind that 52 event, there's been another major breakthrough. And this film will help with this. In other words, what has been lacking is high-end, top-end, mainstream scientific entities actually getting into this issue to research it, right? Hasn't been much of that going back to 47.
Right.
And there have been a couple of examples, right? I think the Soul Foundation is filled with a lot of pretty established scientists. And I know they had some projects, but I'm talking about your classic scientific endeavor. Well, we just had an example of that is a breakthrough. And it's going to take a while. The head of this project is going to be part of the State of the World Forum, which is coming up in December. It's an online event, huge. Google State of the World Forum. If you got questions about it, get in touch with me. I'm a co-sponsor. I have a code that could drop the price substantially, and I can give you that code if you get in touch. But nevertheless, State of the World Forum is a big deal. December 14 to 17, online, 51 panelists from very substantial areas of interest. It's not just about UAPs. That's about a quarter of this. One of the people there is Dr. Beatrice Villarreal. And why is she important? And why is she there? Because she did something that nobody had really thought to do. It's what is called elegant science. All right. Now, what do I mean by elegant science? It's not super deep science where, like quantum physics, where you get into incredibly complex theories and what have you to kind of reach something that kind of makes sense. It's not complicated, but it's elegant. And elegant science sometimes wins a Nobel because it does something that no one has done, and the impact of it is great. Now, what am I talking about? Here's what she did. She is part of the Nordic Institute of Astrophysics in Sweden. So right away, this is not a high school science club, all right? And so the project Vasco that she put together was to do, I can't believe it wasn't been done. Go look at thousands and thousands of astrophotography plates of the sky taken prior to Sputnik being launched, and possibly a couple years after that, because Sputnik was up there for a long time before another satellite showed up. It was years. Now there's enough space junk up there that pretty soon you won't be able to go to the moon because there's no way you can get there without crashing into something, and that's something we have to clean up, and we're going to need antigravitics for that. So she studies these plates, and what she discovers that on a certain night, a telescope shows an exact picture of a certain place in the sky, and there's something there. Could be a star, a little large, but whatever. Nothing particularly profound. But then they check a plate from the exact same spot in the sky. 2 weeks later, it's gone. They found thousands of these instances. I think they found some where it was on plate 1, and then a week or two later it was on plate 2, but then it was gone. Now, the chances of catching a flyby object, right?
Like a comet.
Now, not in the atmosphere, just a loose piece of junk. It's not out of the question, but the odds are very low. But to catch thousands of them, no way. And so on prima facie, it literally confirms we're not alone, because we had nothing in space, nothing we had put up there. And therefore, if there's anything up there that isn't just a natural part of the universe, then it is made by somebody else, not us. QED. But it gets better, because those plates are all time stamped. And so by coordinating all of these instances where this is there, now it's not, with what was happening on the Earth, they found a 45% correlation to atomic tests.
Oh.
Now, and understand, this is prior to Sputnik. And it wasn't but 10 years later, after Sputnik, that they started shutting down on nuclear weapons. 3 occasions that were well documented. That's Minot and Tuat Malmstrom. And then we learned evidence of the Soviet Union. The interest in nukes was fundamentally established right there. And the witnesses to it have been trying to get in front of a congressional hearing since 1994. And the DOD has done everything to pretend they don't exist. And now we've got this. And so this has had 2 peer-reviewed studies. It's going to get more. And if it holds up, I think it's a Nobel Prize. It's a nominee for sure, but I think you could win a Nobel Prize for the Nordic Institute of Astrophysics in the person of Dr. Beatrice Villarreal. And I want to manifest that ceremony. Okay.
Yeah.
We're all go to the screen and have that come out. And so for those of you that have stuck with this a long time and suffered through the monetary pain, the ridicule, the stigma, the personal life sacrifices and everything else for not 1, 2, but maybe 3, 4, 5 decades. For those of you that are frustrated, the payoff, if you can just hang in there, go watch Diary of a CEO. He brings on the absolute top researchers on this planet about every aspect of the human body and those things that are affecting our health, among other things. I mean, it's the most amazing podcast I'm aware of, Diary of a CEO. Watch those babies. They're all archived there, and start learning all the little things you need to know to add another 5 years to your life, whatever that is, because you want to be here to watch all of that unfold. 80 years of buildup right, to this climactic change, this paradigm shift of extraordinary proportions, and all that will naturally follow from that, the awards and the stuff and whatever. Hey,
I think you'll be as happy as the directors and the producers and everybody who put the films together.
I will be ecstatic. I will be floating on a cloud right until I leave this planet for the next dimension or whatever the hell is going on there. No, I will be ecstatic. What can I say? I've devoted the last half of my life to it, and that's the payoff. If it doesn't happen by then, well, hey, that's not unusual. Activism at this level is not easy, and sometimes you don't make it. Usually it's because you just die as opposed to being assassinated. Thank God this is an area where very little violence has taken place, which is nice. But not all activism is that fortunate. But I don't want to be negative here. The payoff is coming. We're going to see victory in our lifetime.
You know, some of us who have been in this for a long time and who are active in it and doing investigations, we get attacked too. They seem to start at the very ground level and try to discourage us. I hope that'll quit someday. Maybe with what you've told us tonight, things will be different.
Well, perhaps, but I have one. I'm a senior. I'm an elderly now. Okay, so I give advice as an elderly, wise person. Advice that I actually took. I did this when I started, with a few lapses in the very early days. Is that if you're attacked on the net, do not respond. If someone wants to debate you on the net, do not debate. Do not take the bait. Right? It's not easy, but there is no upside. The net it's not like an orderly debate, some hall at Harvard. No, it's literally it's just a wild and crazy situation, and you cannot win. You can never win. So do not respond, no matter how bad it is. Because even if it rises to the level of defamation, you don't respond. And the reason is that prosecuting a defamation case in general is virtually impossible unless you've got money coming out of your ears. And prosecuting one based on the internet, don't do it. And if you do, you'll be surprised. It just it happens. It'll go away. People might come to your support. That's okay. But the idea that you're going to defend yourself against all enemies, domestic and foreign, online, don't do it. If you do anything, a mild, humorous response, nothing else. You cannot win a fight on the internet. It is impossible. I don't care how smart you are, right? You can't. And I've managed to do that now for nearly 30 years. Thank God. But I watch others go at it, and it's not helpful, and it's not productive.
That's really good advice. Appreciate that. I appreciate you and all the work that you do, and for bringing us information on this program and many other places as well. Of course, if somebody wants to sign up for your newsletter, how would they do that?
Well, it's not a newsletter, but my updates, you just go to paradigmresearchgroup.org and subscribe. If you want to get up to what the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance is doing, that Dan Harare and I founded about 2 years ago, that's really growing, and there's a lot of stuff there that's interesting, particularly if you're a filmmaker or a researcher or activist in this field. You may want to be part of it. So you can contact us about that. That's Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. Let me remind you that a major conference, State of the World Forum at stateoftheworld.forum, is coming. And it is the renewal of the State of the World Forum that was conducted in the 1990s, led by Jim Garrison and Mikhail Gorbachev, who attended along with other heads of state. It was a huge deal. Jim is still here. And because of this transition, like the one then, end of the Soviet Union and rapprochement and so forth, he's decided that the transition underway now is every bit as powerful. And so he's bringing it back Well, this first one is online this year, and then after that, it's going to continue in various cities around the world to 2030. So support it. Come in, register, get in touch with me if you want a discount code. I can help there. Email, text, whatever that, so forth. And there are other events in the works, and plenty to keep us busy as we move forward in this rather interesting time.
Well, do keep us posted. Appreciate it, Stephen.
All righty.
Hope you'll come back soon.
Anytime.
All right.